Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to open my speech by saying sorry ብዙሕ ደቂመ ስለ ፀናዕኩ እየ ኣብዚ ናይ ሰላማዊ ሰልፊ ሆ ክብል ስለ ፀናዕኩ እየ Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to open my speech by saying America, don't allow history to be repeated. Despite a much heralded independence and a really promising prospect, Eritrea is today among the highest refugee producing countries in the world. We are all refugees fleeing from the displaced social, political and economic state of our country and its oppressive administration. Okay, that one there. Okay, let me. Although all of us have been persecuted as a result of our religious background, our parents' political standing, our ethnicity, or even our level of education or profession, the central cause of our exile is the national service that has been implemented in 1994. What was then said to be an 18 months compulsory services and had turned it into an indefinite period of courtesy services for anyone between the ages of 18 and 45. Moreover, in the period since the declaration of the national service, the Eritrean government turned it increasingly oppressive, arresting politicians and media professionals who advocated reform and invested students who asked for a review of some of the policies regarding the national service and refusing to implement the ratified constitution and severely curbing on freedom of expression, association and worship. Those of us who showed the slightest sign of defiance to our superiors, even by taking extra leave to look after elderly parents or sick children, were dealt with the harshest of punishments. Having welcomed the opportunity to follow the footsteps of freedom fighters who liberated Eritrea from colonial rule and severed our country, we eventually gave up hope in the regime's ability to live up the legacy of the Eritrean revolution for freedom and justice in Eritrea. We were effectively slaves unable to live where we wanted and worked to team a living support ourselves and our families and hence took enormous risks to flee from our country. One of the countries where we have found refuge with all its difficulties is Israel. Ideally, our refugee status should have been acknowledged and we should have been provided the kind of protection that is enshrined in the Refugee Convention. We will continue our fight for our rights in that respect. However, recent months have seen a rise in the threat even to the limited and temporary refuge that we had here in Israel. The Israeli government is building a monstrous fence in its border with Sinai, openly stating that it is planned to stop African refugees from entering its territory. A new anti-infiltration law has recently been implemented, threatening to the imprison asylum seekers free for about 3 years without trial. This is accompanied by a rapid growth in existing prisons capacity and the erection of a huge new detention center in south of Israel. According to this plan, thousands of asylum seekers will be held in subhuman conditions in the heart of the desert. Along with this, the immigration police has begun arresting South Syrians and governmental officials promise to continue until the streets will be clean of immigrants. Israeli officials of all ranks incite against refugees, from denying our rights and claiming that the entire communities are merely looking for a job opportunity here to bloodthirsty statements, for instance, identifying refugees as cancer in the Israeli body. All this led to a rise in xenophobic attacks, lynching and fire bombs on refugee houses and businesses and continuous violent attacks in the streets. We are under a mental and physical attack. We live under the extreme emotional strain. All this is against the principles of rights to protection we have as a refugee. We therefore ask the government of the State of Israel to look into our case of refugee protection and grant us full refugee status and refrain from fueling xenophobic attacks by making statements based on emotional rhetoric rather than sound policies. And here today, we gather thousands of people with the local and foreign supporters to call upon the international community to address the Israeli government and support us in our just struggle. Thank you very much.